I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, the IDF prevents an Islamic State bombing on an Australian airline. Israeli archaeologists may have just found the first ever proof of the prophet Isaiah. And the basketball star Amare Stoudemire is back in Israel, but this time it's for a totally different reason. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. Now get this, the IDF has just revealed that it thwarted the attempted bombing of an Australian flight. The military intelligence unit 8200 allegedly foiled the attempt by the Islamic State, saving dozens of innocent lives.
This is one of many, many such actions that we did preventing terrorism around the world. They deserve all your support, not only for protecting the people of Israel, but protecting people everywhere around the world.
It's pretty unusual for the Israeli army to release information about the operations of its secretive Unit 8200. The unit is similar to the American National Security Agency and monitors information from electronic communication to gather vital intelligence. In this particular case, the Israeli power unit gave a tip to Australian authorities on July 26th of last year. Just 3 days later, Australian security forces arrested 2 men suspected of trying to place an improvised explosive device on an Etihad Airways flight out of Sydney. One of the men brought the weapon to the Sydney airport on July 15th in a piece of luggage that he had asked his brother to take with him. But the bag never got past the check-in counter. Instead, the man left the airport with the bag, and his brother continued onto the flight without it. The military-grade explosive was reportedly sent to the men in Sydney by a senior Islamic State official all the way from Turkey. When the attack failed, the suspects were then planning to release a highly toxic hydrogen sulfide gas to poison people, but were arrested before their plot could advance. Now, this is not the only incident that Unit 8200 has helped prevent. On Wednesday, the IDF also revealed that the unit stopped a recent Iranian cyber attack against the Israeli public. Well, the Israeli Prime Minister may be in the center of a major mess right now, but despite all of the corruption allegations against him, polls are revealing that his Likud party would still remain the largest if elections were held today.
A Channel 10 news report is claiming that Netanyahu has threatened to call early elections if anyone tries to force him to resign or suspend himself. The prime minister allegedly has the credibility to make that threat, and his Likud party would likely remain in power following new elections. According to polls, Likud would win 27 seats if Netanyahu were in charge, down from its current 30 and 26 without him, leaving Yesh Atid in second with 23 seats. Despite the continuing strength of his Likud party, another poll commissioned by Israel's Hadashot News claims that 50% of respondents think Netanyahu himself should resign, with a mere 33% saying he should remain in office. This week, the former Director General of the Communications Ministry and a longtime confidant of the Prime Minister turned state witness in the newest corruption investigation into the leader. Filber reportedly told police he was once fired from his position as Chief of Staff of Netanyahu's office for not allowing the premier to keep an expensive watch given to him by the Italian Prime Minister. Netanyahu is continuing to deny all wrongdoing.
Well, surprise, surprise, amid all of the corruption allegations against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel has dropped to 34th place in a world corruption ranking.
The watchdog group Transparency International has revealed its annual corruption rankings, and Israel is sliding down from 26th place last year. Israel is still one of the least corrupt countries in the Middle East, but it's among the most corrupt in the developed world. Although Prime Minister Netanyahu is the most high-profile politician suspected of corruption, several Israeli politicians and mayors have been investigated for bribery in the past year. In case you were wondering, the least corrupt country in the world is reportedly New Zealand.
Joining us in the studio to talk about the latest developments in the Netanyahu scandal is Naftali Ben-Simon from the Likud party. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
All right, so, every day we're seeing the media announce more and more news suggesting that Netanyahu could be in even more serious trouble. The new news is that Bezek Walla, owner, was recorded demanding favorable coverage for Netanyahu. What is your response to this?
Well, it's a very hard time for us as citizens of Israel and, of course, for the Prime Minister and for everyone that lives in a democratic country and is coming with such a severe allegations. And I think nobody is above the law, including the Prime Minister. But when I see the whole picture, it seems to me that we lost any sense of human dignity, human rights, or...
Why do you say that?
I say that because even the Prime Minister is a human being. And what I see in the news from the 24/7 here in Israel, it reminds me a very famous song during the apartheid regime in South Africa. I'm hearing only bad news in Radio Africa. And here we hear only bad news about how Israel is a corrupt country, the Prime Minister is a corrupt... We are still in a legal process, and it's just
I mean, I guess
step.
the point here is that there obviously haven't been, nothing has happened yet legally, right? He hasn't been incriminated yet legally. But we do see, many of his closest confidants turning state witness. What does that say about this?
It's not a good sign. It's not a good sign for the Prime Minister. It's not a good sign for the allegations that we hear. But still, we already have been in this story, and not with the Prime Minister Netanyahu, maybe with Olmert or others. Right. And it happens to be that it's not how it looks in the beginning, and maybe it will change, and maybe the allegations are not so severe.
I guess that's what we're waiting to see. But what I would like to ask you is, do you think that Netanyahu is going to call for a snap election? Is there a chance that that will happen?
What I see here, it's a hijacking from the media, try to put Netanyahu in a situation that he must step down. It will not happen. I think. Well,
the Likud party in polls is as strong as ever, right? So the question is whether.
But it's not, Natasha, only the polls. The polls are good because people in Israel are asking themselves, is this the only news about Israel? Is this, we are $100 billion export. We are world leader in cyber, in clean tech, in so many fields. We are doing so many things here in Israel. Why everything is about Netanyahu from the morning to the night? Yeah. So what I see, what I feel is, if he will decide to resign, which I hope not, but if Netanyahu will decide to resign, I see only one solution, is a new general election. Because if we are a democratic country, so we ask the people who will be the next Prime Minister of Israel.
That's true. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Naftali. All right. Now, get this. It looks like Poland is backtracking ever so slightly on its controversial Holocaust law. The new law bans people from mentioning Polish complicity in World War II. But now a top governmental official says doing so will not lead to criminal charges.
The recently adopted law has sparked a major conflict between Israel and Poland, with Israeli officials accusing Poland of trying to rewrite history and even deny the reality of the Holocaust. It didn't help when the Polish Prime Minister asserted that there were also, quote, Jewish perpetrators in the Holocaust, while responding to the question of an Israeli reporter. Initially, the law stated that those who referred to Nazi concentration camps in Israel as Polish death camps could face up to 3 years of jail time. But now Polish officials say in the event of so-called false accusations, Poland will simply react, demand clarifications, and argue against them. But here's the positive catch. No means of prosecution will be implemented. Well, despite the statement, Jewish protesters are still outraged by the entire affair. In fact, one American Jewish philanthropic organization is urging the United States to suspend its ties with Poland over the country's new law. The Rudderman Family Foundation has launched a campaign that includes a petition for suspension.
It looks like it's beginning. The first 7 African asylum seekers that have refused to be deported from Israel have just been imprisoned. And now a major hunger strike has just broken out in the Holot detention center. The first 7 Eritrean migrants are refusing to be deported to Rwanda and have been brought to Saharonim prison on Wednesday for an indefinite detention. Now, in response, 750 Eritrean asylum seekers at the Holot detention center are refusing both food and water to protest the move. There are about 1,000 asylum seekers currently being detained in the center, and many are devastated by this news. While Chalot is an open detention center that people can go in and out of during the day, Saharonim is a regular prison. Right now, 600 asylum seekers have been given notice that they must choose between deportation or imprisonment. There are around 40,000 in Israel that will face a similar fate. The Israeli government considers these people to be illegal infiltrators, even though the rest of the world recognizes them as refugees of war, genocide, and a slave army. Israel has now passed a law to either deport all of the asylum seekers to a third-party country like Rwanda or Uganda, or imprison them, all by April of 2018. Well, this policy is causing international outrage, especially since these countries are considered too dangerous. The United Nations is currently negotiating with Israel to resettle a portion of the Africans in countries that are deemed safe in exchange for some of the refugees to be given permanent residency in Israel. All right, now get this. The Qatari-owned news station Al Jazeera is once again facing sharp criticism, but this time it's for interviewing an Israeli official. On Tuesday night, the station hosted the IDF spokesperson for Arabic media, Avichai Adrai, on one of its most popular shows, The Opposite Direction.
This, of course, wasn't the first time that an Israeli has been hosted on Al Jazeera's Arabic television. But this particular show is already famous for its provocative style and staunch criticism of Arab governments and leaders. In this case, Adrai was invited to appear on the show to debate the retired Syrian army officer Salah Khairata, all about the recent tensions between Israel, Iran, and Syria. Well, even before the show was aired, Arab protesters called for canceling it, claiming Al Jazeera was giving a platform to the, quote, Zionist enemy and is promoting normalization with Israel. The IDF officer's post on Twitter didn't help either, where he wrote in Arabic, "For the first time, an IDF officer participates in the Opposite Direction program on Al Jazeera. I will tell viewers in the Middle East that wherever there's corruption and evil, we find the hands of Iran."
A group of community activists from Petah Tikva are trying to raise money to revamp a local synagogue, and they're planning to name it after the fallen Border Patrol hero Pascal Avrahami. Joining us to tell us more is Jonathan Zarsky. And so, I think the first thing that we'd like to know is a little bit about Pascal. Tell us about him.
Pascal was born in France and made Aliyah to Israel in 1977. About 1985, he joined a special unit of the police and was trained as a combat fighter and a sniper. Throughout his service for 26 years, he got several medals on bravery actions, some we can tell and some not. But he was a big man, modest, a big Zionist, and brave.
Now, he tragically passed away. I mean, I understand that...
He was killed.
Right, he was killed. So I'd like you to tell us kind of what happened there. What is your synagogue's connection to him more personally?
Our synagogue, we are a Jewish Orthodox community in Petah Tikva. Most of the members had served in the IDF as fighters in all kind of units in the IDF, and we believe in Israel, the state, and the IDF as the army. Still, members serve reserve duty today. One of the members in our congregation had served with Pascal Avrahami and his unit, and after he was killed, he kept connection with the family. And a few years ago, we asked the family to together we want to honor Pascal's name, and we thought of the idea to honor his name, to call our synagogue Pascal Avrahami Shul, in honor of his name.
Now, I understand that you're raising money to name the synagogue after him, so it's not named after him yet, but what is the money going to go towards doing? I understand it's to revamp the synagogue, right?
Yes, currently we have a place that we got from the city hall. We raised money. We raised about $100,000 from the community members, and we need $100,000 more. So that's why we started the Head Start project.
Okay.
The Head Start project is running already for a few months, and it's now in its final days, 7 days left, and we need $25,000 more.
All right. Well, I guess our final question for you is, why is it so important to name the synagogue after Pascal?
Pascal, as I said, was a big, modest man, brave. We'd like to name and to honor him and to teach our children. When we go to synagogue and teach our children about the modesty, bravery, Zionist, These are all values and qualities we all want to teach our families. And this is how we do it. We go with my children to the synagogue, and that's how we learn about them.
Now, where can people donate for those who are interested in donating?
You can search in Google Pascal Avrahami Shul, and you'll see the Head Start. We have $25,000 missing. Any amount will help.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, now get this. A major biblical find has been made in Israel yet again, but this time it has to do with the prophet Isaiah. Israeli archaeologists believe they have unearthed a seal from the 8th century BCE that was created by the hand of the prophet himself. And if it truly was his, it may be the first ever proof of his existence. The seal was discovered in the remains of the first temple near Jerusalem's Temple Mount. The minuscule artifact was found near the southern wall of the holy complex, and the clay impression is inscribed with letters and what appears to be a grazing doe, which apparently is a sign of blessing and protection that was typically found in Judah. The oval-shaped seal sadly isn't intact, but on its legible portion, there's an inscription with First Temple Hebrew letters that seem to spell out the name Le'eshayu, in other words, belonging to Isaiah. On just one line below, there is also the partial word Nevi, N-V-Y, which is believed to spell out prophet. Put two and two together, and we have the prophet Isaiah. Prophet Isaiah is perhaps the most well-known biblical prophet, and he's known to have been active around the late 8th century and early 7th century BCE. This seal was discovered only 10 feet away from where the same archaeological team discovered a completely intact seal with the inscription of King of Hezekiah of Judah back in 2015. Now, let's turn to a very interesting interview we recorded earlier this week. Do you love playing games on your smartphone? Well, now you can play a game while also building a business. It sounds too good to be true, right? Well, don't worry. Here to tell us more about the application is the CEO of Selfie, Tomer Nouni. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So tell us, you can build an online store and make money while using your app. Is this real? How does this work?
Yes, so we've created a platform that enables you to create a complete online store, manage it, and market it through a game. It's a game called Selfie. My fiancé calls it the Farmville of e-commerce.
The Farmville of e-commerce. Okay,
Yes.
and Farmville was a pretty popular game, so is this... Okay, I mean, I want to know how you can download this because this already sounds amazing, but this is a way for people to make side cash, essentially, right? And what can you sell on your e-commerce store?
Yes, so yes, as I said, it can be like a side cash, like as a second job, and it can also be your main business. You're actually creating your own store in a few taps through the game, and you learn how to manage all of that business inside of the game instead of having complex management systems.
So this is almost like a teaching tool as well, right?
Yes, you learn how to market and advertise online through the game. And all of the marketing tools are a part of the game. Now, for your other question about the products.
Yeah.
All of the products are actually our own stock. They're our stock.
Interesting.
Yes, so you just choose which products you want to sell. You choose
Give
the
us
category
some
of
examples.
products.
What are some of the products?
Yes, let's say, for example, you can create your own smartphones and tablets online store that will sell worldwide with a few thousands of products with 5 taps. And you can start selling your products today in a few minutes.
So what kind of money are people making from this game?
So we've launched about very silent launch about almost a week ago.
Okay.
Now, and highest earners for now have made about few $100 of earnings.
Okay, which is not bad at all, obviously.
Which is
on the
not
side.
bad, yeah.
And you can just essentially be playing this game on your breaks during work, when you get home.
You can play the game everywhere. You can manage your store from everywhere and market it from everywhere. You can do it from your smartphone, from your tablet device. And as for this morning, we already have a new beta version of the game for Facebook.
Okay.
So you can play it on your desktop computer, laptop computer, wherever you
All right.
are. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I mean, this is something I'm definitely going to look forward to downloading. I think people are going to be very excited to hear there's a way they can make money while playing a game. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Very cool, right, guys? All right, well, basketball fans, Amare Stoudemire is back in the headlines, and no, this time it's not because of his big move to Israel. He's actually just made a major new launch of, drumroll please, kosher wine. All right, the former NBA All-Star has just announced that he's launching a line of kosher for Passover Israeli wine. The news comes days after Stoudemire returned from a trip to Israel. The six-time All-Star told a group of reporters at the Jewish National Fund building that he's very excited about the opportunity and feels that it's, quote, a blessing for me and my family to be able to produce such great wines from a land like the land of Israel. Although Stoudemire was raised Christian, he started to explore Judaism in 2010 and has said in recent years that he feels culturally and spiritually Jewish. Stoudemire spent last year playing for the Israeli powerhouse Hapoel Jerusalem, leading the team to a championship. But after the season, the star player announced his retirement from professional basketball and began focusing on his business ventures. The wine line will include 2 red wine blends and 1 Cabernet Sauvignon, all of which will be produced in a vineyard in northern Israel. The red stuff will be distributed in New York and New Jersey by the kosher beverage giant Royal Wine Corporation, and you can grab yourself one of the lower-end bottles for either $60 or $100. Stoudemire's private selection retails at $250. This is not the first time that Stoudemire is sharing his passion for wine. Back in 2014, he posted a picture doing a lot more than just drinking it. He once took part in a session of vinotherapy, which is when you soak your body in wine to relax and rejuvenate. Stoudemire says the whole deal was exaggerated, but we still think it's funny. All right, now we have ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh with this week's Top 5.
Purim 2018 is right around the corner, and trust me when I tell you that being unique and creative at this point is close to impossible. So I thought I'd give you all a little costume inspo by showing you the best Purim costumes of last year. Take note. At number 1 on our list are the avocado twins. Not that you all haven't noticed at this point, but the avocado itself is becoming a trend of its own. So I dare you to find a more on-point, creative, and trendy costume than these two. Simple, do-it-yourself costume that had everyone on the streets of Tel Aviv dying of laughter. Number 2 on our list goes to the beloved Dizengoff fountain. The fountain itself was taken down last year for renovation and has since caused a complete mess in the city's most visited roundabout. But you have to give credit where credit is due, and this girl really nailed it. She even has on a mini Dizzy fountain hat. Now that's going all out. Third on our list is the man that dressed up as the movie Up. Yes, you remember that grouchy old animated man holding a house floating with balloons? Yeah, that was the Israeli man walking around the street holding some kind of house with countless balloons. Safe to say he absolutely nailed it. Fourth, we have the Flying Jack costume. Let's put it this way, if you haven't seen the movie Titanic, you should probably just turn off your TV now. But for those who have, this costume is simply perfection. Jack is flying, you could say flying, on an electric skateboard with the Titanic cruise ship wrapped around him, just like the scene in the movie with Rose. Romantic, creative, and downright amazing. Last but not least, we have the hummus in a pita costume. A staple in Israeli culture and cuisine is the classic hummus in a pita. You can add a falafel or two for some crunch, but these pita costumes are definitely one of my favorites. They are a true example of how creative and humorous the holiday of Purim really is. Take note for your 2018 Purim costume, and that's all for today's Top 5. Back to you.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. There's a good chance you're sitting in your living room watching us right now. So today's word is salon, which means living room in Hebrew. I don't know about you, but my favorite place to hang out is a salon. That's because there's a couch there, and there's no better place to live than on a comfy sofa. To be honest though, for most people, the salon is really the most important part of the house because it's where everybody gathers. I mean, you're not going to serve your guests coffee in the bathroom, right? So on that note, make sure that your salon is presentable and comfortable because you're probably going to be spending a lot of your time there. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. This weekend is finally here, and you can expect it to be sunny and hot all throughout. The low tonight should be about 54 or 12 degrees Celsius, and the temperatures over the weekend will remain the same. The high on Saturday will be 68 or 20 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.5 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.